Blog Talk Radio.
This is your weekly Oppt-In show, your update on all things One People's Public Trust. Welcome. We have all the usual suspects on the call. We've got Bob.
Hello, 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 Lisa.
Hello, hello. And we've got Chris.
Hi, Lisa. Hi, Bob. Hi, everybody. Good morning.
And we've actually got the Bartles from Western Australia on the line as well.
Hello, everyone.
And who else have we got? We've got... Yes, we've got Brian.
Hello, and greetings to all.
And Dee. Oh, where's that coming from? Steve, you got... I get a musical intro.
That's very funky. I don't know where it's coming from, but it's funky.
Where's it coming from?
Minimize your window, Steve.
Don't look at me, guys. The music ain't coming from my side.
Well, I will do again just to check.
Bob, that's coming from the host.
Yeah, it's coming from the host.
Uh-huh.
Hi, everyone.
It's not my. I don't even.
Okay, someone at the host end is doing some interesting things there.
The host is listening to some groovy elevator music.
It's coming from your computer, Dee.
It's not.
It is. When I unmute you in the Blog Talk in there, that's when I get the music.
I don't know what I've got open.
Apparently someone wanted us to have a dance party.
Okay. Well, here, I've closed my internet down completely. Hold on.
It's all good. And hopefully we will have Heather join us, but she's had internet issues all day, apparently.
Horrific internet issues.
Yes, we've got a lot to address today, though. First things first. What is first things first? There is a Facebook post, probably should discuss, that a gentleman outlines the scenario of a person coming into his car yard with some kind of check that he designed himself to buy a $200,000 car. And when the car yard refused to comply, he then used a courtesy notice on them to charge them 14,000 silver coins for not doing so. Now, we've all looked at this, and we all believe it's actually, what was that word?
It's a troll.
The troll?
Troll.
This gentleman knows an awful lot about the One People Public Trust, about the
sovereignty movement and the strawman concepts, etc. Way too knowledgeable.
Yes, very much so for somebody who just happened to be caught sort of sidelined by somebody walking into his car sales place of work and presented him with some documents he didn't understand. So, yeah, but it does bring up the question of what's appropriate use of this courtesy notice. And something like this is not one of them. Whether this actually happened or not is irrelevant right now, but it does bring up the discussion of this is not a weapon, people, and I hope nobody's trying to use it as one. But do you guys want to, Scott, Ken, want to address, because the guidelines are very, very detailed in terms of its uses, the courtesy notice's use.
Yeah, sure. I'll jump in on that one. It's we've seen actually over in the last week quite a lot of comments that have come through to the the FORAPAC email, and there's been a couple of folk who've perhaps unwittingly had a question in their mind that goes along the lines of, how do I get them to do X, Y, or Z? Or how do I make them do X, Y, Z? How do I stop them from doing X, Y, Z? And basically you can't. It's a free will universe. It's not a tool to use to compel someone to do anything. That's, if you look at the big picture, that's what we've had enough of, and we've had enough of compelling people to do other things. So jumping out there and saying, you have to do this or you have to do that is no different. So the courtesy notice is not a tool for that. Instead, what it's saying is, I offer the following arrangements. I accept you performing this action against me in exchange for this particular monetary value. Now, if you put that monetary value at a very high value, the incentive there is for that person to stop it. If they perform the action, they've chosen the outcome. They've chosen to receive an invoice for that amount of money. It's a tool to assist in bringing that choice to a point where you go, no, don't really want to make that action. So, before you get into the courtesy notice, inspect your intent as to what you're looking to use it for. And if you spot any elements of how do I make them do this, how do I stop them do that, that sort of thing, I'd suggest starting again and just look at what you're willing to accept in exchange for them actually doing it.
Indeed.
Anybody got anything to add to that? No, I'm here. I was muted.
Yeah,
you have something to add?
Yeah, I do. It's that something that Heather has emphasised to Scott and Ken and I over and over and over, that the energy associated with this document is very strong, and it needs to be the right energy. It needs to be done with an intent that's for the greater good. In part, this is to deflect the approaches of people who are still operating the slavery system, whether they know it or not. But in part, it's actually to wake them up. And it's that component that the energetic effects work on. It's the waking up of the people who receive this. That's the intent that Scott's speaking to. So if you used it to try and head off your next payment of your mortgage, or to compel someone around you to do something, completely the wrong energy. That's the old energy that we're stepping away from.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll just follow on from there, is using that mortgage example. When you get, say, for example, an action that comes back in that's you have to pay your mortgage, having provided the courtesy notice, the attitude I approach it from is, oh, thank you. You've accepted my terms and conditions. I'll pop an invoice in the mail. Some people go to the place of, oh, it didn't work. They're still demanding money from me. Like, well, they've just said thank you to your terms and conditions and have accepted them. So oblige them with an invoice and follow up with your overdue notice and the final notice, and approach it from that angle. It's not necessarily, and from experience when invoicing banks for these sort of things, some of these have taken 4, 5, 6 more invoices before they get the idea that, oh, maybe I better read the document and do some research as to what this person's talking about, rather than just categorize them into some fringe group and say, I don't have to read that. That's meaningless. I've been receiving these for the last 10 years. That's just this bunch of stuff that I don't have to worry about. And I suspect there'll be a large amount of that where people have been in some of these positions of banks and so-called governments and that sort of thing, receiving material from various different avenues and camps, that it's possible that they go, oh, not another one, and they don't even bother reading it. They get to the first 5 lines and go, no, and they've already categorized it. Would that sound likely for everyone else?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So, we have to keep it in our minds at all times, what it is, the process that we're actually going through, and understand it at our end as well. And we've got a very good example, unlike the troll that we think has emerged to have a go at discrediting the process. There's actually a really interesting story about a lady who she actually wrote a letter to her bank referencing the OPPT UCC filing. She didn't actually use the courtesy notice, but she basically told them that their credit card account, the whole setup, was fraudulent. She had no debt, and they were foreclosed upon. And as a result of that approach by a letter, they discharged her debt and closed the account.
It was $28,000 worth of credit.
$28,000, yeah. And she, the third party, yeah, they actually refunded her last payment. Interesting. Not only that, the credit card company called her specifying they were not willing to collect. They're not calling to collect any money. They just wanted to know if the account was opened fraudulently by someone else, or if it was opened by her because she had mentioned fraud. She said no, the fraud was on their side. They also warned that her credit would be bad for 7 years, which I don't think concerned her a great deal. But so what? So that was a $28,000 debt discharged by one letter that simply mentioned the UCC filings and followed up by her standing in the right space and literally, staring them down, if you like. And that is the outcome that we expect to get with a significant number of these. There'll be a significant number of amounts of blustering and various other posturing by the people who will receive them. But essentially, the filings will stand. And if more people tell these organisations that we know they're foreclosed, the individuals who operate in those departments who are actually dealing directly with the public, they ain't going to want to deal with it, and they will just simply start dropping them like hot potatoes whenever the subject even comes up. They just will want to deal with customers who will play their game. So I think we're going to find over the next month or two, depending on what happens with all of the other things in the background, such as the CVACs, that the financial institutions will well and truly know that the game is up.
I actually had an interesting thing happen with the one that I filled out, Chris, for my my auto note with Chase. The last payment I made was January 1st, so come February 3rd, my payment was late. Around the 10th, they started calling me, and they called me every other day, trying to collect the debt. And I sent my notice in, I believe, around the 23rd, and I told the guy I was coming, and I sent it registered mail, and it's in Orange County, which is just up the road from me, so it probably got to him the next day. And I haven't received a single call since then. I don't know if they've discharged the debt yet or not, but whatever happened, they stopped calling me. So I'll keep people posted on developments with mine as well.
Well, hopefully that, Brian, that meant they read the terms and conditions, because they would know that a call is very expensive. Mm-hmm. They will get a large invoice if they call you, and that's one of the ways that the terms and conditions are designed to work, to break off all contact with you. Now, while we're on the subject of courtesy notices, I just wanted to bring everybody up to date in where we're at with issuing updates. And in a moment, we'll go through some aspects of the new versions we've put out with Scott and Ken, just so people understand how they're going to be used. There was a set released late last week, which was essentially a Microsoft Word version. We immediately started to get feedback from people on the Macintosh with Pages that formatting was being somewhat lost. And we also got the feedback that there were people out there that actually just wanted the PDF version and print it out and fill it in by hand with a pen. So today we're re-releasing that, and I think there'll probably be weekly updates for a little while we settle the whole set down. And this update will consist of the following. There'll be a set of American letter formatted Word files with a PDF reference file, so that you'll recognize the reference file, because when you open it, it'll have reference right across the page. That's there to show you how the pages should work. In case you get formatting shifts that produce extra pages or whatever, you can refer to that reference and just fix up the Word file in whatever word processor you use. We've made some adjustments to the formatting so that the Pages program doesn't do anything ugly with it. You will still get a couple of warnings when you open the file in Pages because of the way that it interprets the styles in Word. Just ignore them. They're of no consequence. And the other thing we have done is also produced a PDF-only set, which is just to be printed and filled in by hand. And just when you're downloading them from the website, you'll get the whole kit, but the files are very clearly labeled by names, so just read through the file names and you'll find the ones that you actually need to use. So there'll be that new setup on the website later today. The next release, which will be before the show next week, is going to have some legal things added to it to actually increase what it's actually doing when it hits the recipient end, which will be pretty interesting. So look out for updates and keep an ear out on the show. Also, in the updates, in the update from last week, and we'll probably do the same with this one, there is a short audio update explaining what Scott and I are about to run through, which is the 5 slightly different versions of the document that we've put out there in this release. The intent here is that you can use this courtesy notice for almost any situation. You've just got to pick the right version, the right flavor of it. And the flavor is determined by at the very start of the courtesy notice, there's a section actually called Declaration of Facts that actually establishes who the respondent is. That's who the person it is you're sending it to, and it actually establishes the initial terms upon which you're basing the whole courtesy notice. So, are you still with us, Scott?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Now, I'll just read out the different types, and then we'll just quickly run through the intent behind each of them. There's a paper action where they send you a piece of paper, an actual incident where there's some sort of event, a future action, and then 2 general notices. One we've called Slavery Foreclosure General and Slavery Foreclosure Individual. Now, Scott, the paper action one is essentially the original version that we created.
Yeah, it's basically the standard version. Most of the actions that are received, people have a piece of paper that is part of the demand for money or demand for action from either a bank or a government. And the duly verified declaration of facts section you mentioned, the only modifications are to include the context in which the rest of the courtesy notice flows from. So all we're doing in that paper action one is pointing to the document that purports to be for example, a notice or an infringement notice or whatever the title of the document is that you actually get. Often they'll come with a reference number. Drop that in there as well. And then hopefully you're going to have a document that's come from someone who you can put their name in there from. And they'll have also their address. So if you don't get their name, you may have to pick up the phone and do some calling to see if you can find out who or who's claiming responsibility for having sent that. Yeah,
it could be if you can't get the actual person in, say, some kind of credit recovery department, you should be able to get the name of the person responsible for that department. Yeah. Somewhere you might have to just keep going up the old hierarchy system till you find someone who's got their name published or people are willing to point at that person as the one responsible. Indeed. Okay.
Ideally, you want to go as low as you can, though, don't you? So it works its way up through the system.
Yeah. Ideally, if you can get the individual at the lowest level, yes. If you think that what would happen is likely that individual would go, oh, hang on, I don't know about this. I'm going to ask my former. Yep. And it rattles its way all the way up to the top of the old hierarchy.
Yes, it's actually shedding energy all the way up that chain and educating people, and that's really the one of the key things that's going on here is that information process. So that applies to all of these, except for possibly the last 2, but they're very very specific, and we'll cover those in a moment. Okay, number 2 is the incident. Now this is for use with a physical incident, such as detainment, arrest, or imprisonment, where no documentation is provided, which does happen occasionally, and it's a form of catch-all. Do you want to speak to that, Scott?
Yep. Simply the difference between the paper action and the incident is, again, all we're looking to do is provide a certain context for sending that courtesy notice. So to identify an incident, point to the location of where that incident was and the date, and that's about as much as you need really to identify the context of that incident, and the rest is...
Can you clarify what you mean by an incident, though? I mean, where would there be an incident where you wouldn't have a piece of paper? I mean, if you're pulled over by a police officer on the side of the road, he's going to give you a piece of paper, surely. Or so what? Can you think of any scenarios here that actually fall into this category?
It's very... I would say that in most instances you're going to get it. There's probably very rare circumstances that you would have an incident, but if you're out there, what was it? One guy wrote in the other day that said he was cycling his bike without a helmet on, and he got pulled over and labelled for that. Chances are, you're right, he'd probably get a piece of paper. There are some situations where that may not happen.
Okay.
Yeah, this is intended basically to fill a little crack that we know exists, because there are people who get, for instance, pushed around by policy officers, not necessarily cited or fined, but mistreated physically, and this gives them the right to actually send it directly to the person who's doing it to them, to draw this whole situation to their attention. So as I say, this is the one we expect to probably be used least, but we just felt it made the set complete.
Actually, there is another instance that just pops up. A friend shared a situation where they were in court and were being bullied a bit by some of the security officers in the court.
Yep, classic example, because bullying is damaging the proponent's measurable energy. You know, it's an insult on the energy of the person, and that is most definitely not permitted.
It's an invoiceable offence.
It's an invoiceable offence, and you need to read the front of the courtesy notice where it details the things that they're not allowed to do in terms of financial harm and physical harm, because one of the specifications is damage to the proponent's measurable energy. So that means if they upset you, it's your free will choice to go through life and not be upset, is it not? So if they're ruining your day, then they don't have a right to do that, and that's part of what the courtesy notice actually covers. Okay, now the third one is future action. Now, I'll just read out what we've got on the guidelines here. This can be sent to any individual acting as an agent for a foreclosed entity that may interact with you in the future. The fact that you've already submitted the courtesy notice to an individual, such as a police chief, means that any individual instructed directly or indirectly by that person is duly noticed by the notice to principal is notice to agent doctrine preserved in UCC 103. Scott, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. It's, I suppose, rather than waiting for a piece of paper to turn up for a demand for payment, you're basically taking the initiative and saying, look, I recognise the environment that we're in at the moment, and before let's just say a classic example is the tax office. They tend to only harass you at the end of the year or the financial year in certain timing patterns. This document here gives you the ability to step in right away and write to them and say, look, with regard to any future action by, and list the name of the individual with the address of, drop their address in there, and then it launches into the rest of the courtesy notice. So it's talking to a non-specific incident or action in the future, and the context of that is set by your terms and conditions. So it's if they ring up and say, just wanted to wish you happy birthday, you're not going to smash out an invoice to them. It's the context is their future action demanding money or action from you, compelling you to do something.
So based on your past experience, based on my past experience with your corporation, I know that come April or July, you're going to make contact with me again. So just to let you know, this is what happens if you do. This is the arrangement under which that can happen. Okay.
So you're actually starting the contract earlier. You're not waiting for a communication and then making the offer of contract. You're actually making the offer of contract before they even contact you. And then as soon as anyone contacts you, it triggers the contract. So the very next time they send something to you, it's a done deal. They've accepted the contract, and you can invoice them.
Gotcha.
Now the way that it works is that the respondent, and I'll read this directly out. This is part of the one of the phrases in the courtesy notice itself. It says, "Respondent is cautioned of its compounding and accumulating liability through instructing, directing, or conspiring with colleagues in pursuing damaging actions against proponent. Should colleagues so instructed detrimentally damage proponent, they will be made jointly and severally liable through principal agent doctrine preserved by Public Policy UCC 1-103. It is now your commercial and moral responsibility to inform them." Brian, do you want to mute yourself?
Oh, yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay. It's your responsibility to investigate your liability and any potential future liability that is created by your knowing, willing, and intentional free will choice to damage proponent. Proponent was duly made and given an additional courtesy notice Proponent has duly made and given an additional courtesy notice to respondent. Original notice is a matter of record made and given by OPPT. And what they're saying is everyone was noticed when the OPPT stuff was put on the website on December 25th. That was notice to the world. We're giving them the courtesy of an extra warning, if you like, an extra notice before, in this case, we kick in a contract which is triggered by one of their actions. So bottom line is that this can actually be used to make any contact from a government department or a corporation that you don't want to have. Instantly they attempt to contact you the next time, they're invoking the contract straight away. So this is a pretty useful little courtesy notice, and it's actually very simple to do. So we're thinking that would, we really encourage you to do these things. Because you're actually really diving right into the heart of the system when you actually point out to them that there is compounding liability all the way up the chain. As a member of, say, a foreclosed corporation who is, say, a manager of a large staff of individuals who are fraudulently attempting to extort money from other individuals as a group, which is what's happening. They're not acting as a corporation anymore. They're just a group of people who are actually unlawfully extorting money from individuals. And the person who is instructing this group is commercially liable for every action they take. And it wouldn't take much arithmetic for a manager to realize that if he's got 30 people making 30 phone calls a day, and ruining the days of hundreds and hundreds of people, that compound liability is more than significant. It is huge. And if you compound that across a whole company and look at the liability of the chief executive officer, it's way in excess of their bonus. Let me put it that way. So the next one is slavery foreclosure general is what we've called it. And this goes back to a clause, the same clause affecting proponents' measurable energy, but it also goes back directly to the UCC filings, where perpetuation of a slavery system is absolutely unlawful. Scott, do you want to take up that thought?
Yeah. Well, I suppose we've got these courtesy notices where we're directing their attention to the cease and desist. So you're ordering the cease and desist. Can you actually make them cease and desist? No, that's where you're accepting those or proposing those terms and conditions to actually do that. And I was going to suggest with the courtesy notice for, I suppose if we move into the general one, they're very similar in their context. And we've got the courtesy notice which has got the foreclosure, we're basically talking about a generic one that covers each day that they turn up to work, perpetuating the slavery system. So the final two that we were going to talk about, and I might be jumping ahead a little bit there, Chris, was the two courtesy notices covering the perpetuation of the slavery system. The one's a generic one that can be issued for anyone who is perpetuating the slavery system, basically turning up to work, sending out letters.
That sounds like one we could send to Gillard.
Yeah, well, the thing about it is you could send it to, an accounts clerk, or you could send it to the chairman of the board of a company, because they're all doing the same thing. They're perpetuating the slavery system.
Exactly. And they're not turning up to work to change the system. They're sending out all the usual stuff. They're doing all the same things, and it all relates to, I'm just doing my job, which is the common catchphrase. So that's the thing that we're noticing them for, like Chris said, a second time, to actually advise them that, hang on guys, here's the memo in case you didn't get the first one, and get that message across.
Well, if you read the courtesy notice from start to front to back, the first thing it says is that the corporations have been foreclosed by a series of filings from the One People's Public Trust. There's your notice, and it lists the actual filings that they need to go to look at, and they have all the information necessary in those filings to work out what has and hasn't happened. So you're well and truly putting the ball back in their court to work out what it is you're talking about when you tell them they're perpetuating a slavery system. Now, I wouldn't expect to ever get a response to one of these, but if they do, it's item, I think, number 15 in the terms and conditions that actually covers it, and I just need to...
No, actually 16, Chris.
16, yep.
Yep, operating or perpetuating any and all private money systems, issuing collection, legal enforcement systems, operating slavery systems of and against the one people. And the one people is defined in UCC, 1,000 ounces of silver per calendar day.
So should they happen to respond, even if the company secretary writes back a letter saying, thanks very much for your letter, but we think you're a nutter, you can start sending her, if you like, an invoice every day for 1,000 ounces of silver, should they happen to respond to you. Now, they may well put them in the shredder, but the point is taken that they now know, they've been put on notice that they're operating a slavery system and the company is foreclosed. And that's the message we're trying to get through. And this is the harm to one is harm to all concept. That's really at the bottom of this, that an operating slavery system might only diminish one person, but because we're one people, that diminishes us. And they're not actually entitled to do that under universal law. Not to one, not to all. So this is really operating in an absolutely generic fashion. So if you feel annoyed at Monsanto, send one of these to the CEO. If you feel annoyed at a company you discover is doing chemtrail spraying, send one to the CEO. Send one to every board member. Send one to every country, every company official you can find in their website. You're entitled to do that. And if they write back to you saying, sorry, but we think you're being silly, send them an invoice and keep sending them invoices. The point will come home to them. And the more, for instance, one of the things that we could do with the email blast is to send 10,000 courtesy notices like this to the head of some corporation. At that point,
I vote Monsanto.
If they happen to respond to it, then if they responded to 50 of those, they can have 50 people sending them invoices daily until they shut the company down, stop operating. So it's one of those things where we can stand toe to toe and tell the system that the game is over. And so we're actually hoping that...
Well, I just want to say, and because we've covered 40 minutes on the courtesy notices, so let's just sort of round it up and move on a little bit.
Okay, I'll just round it up with the last one. If you can just give me one more minute. The last one is virtually the same, but it's to support a specific individual, action against a specific individual. If you want to support Bill Brockbrader or Cody, the gentleman who was put in jail last week, number 5 is the one to use because you can name an individual. Okay, so read through the guidelines, have a look at it, and sharpen your pencils.
Now, all the courtesy notices always go directly up on the Oppt-In.com website. So every time they're updated, that's where you'll find them. I know that people are downloading them and sharing them on other websites and blogs and things, which is great. But the ones that come from Scott and Chris and Ken, that's where they go. Straight onto that website.
Yeah.
And this go ahead.
Yep. I was just going to say the email address for questions is foropak@gmail.com. That's FOROPAQ @gmail.com.
And that's just for courtesy notice related questions.
Yes.
Okay. The website is constantly under revision and growth and expanding and changing constantly. So there's always more information up there. And this does bring me to one of the points I wanted to make, which is to go to the source. What I'm seeing is a lot of commentators out there who are discussing OPPT, doing radio shows on it, writing up blog posts and what have you, and they are misquoting or outright lying in some respects. And if you're getting a lot of your information from other commentators, then I strongly recommend you go back. There's really only a couple of sources to get it from the horse's mouth. That is the One People's Public Trust 1776 website where the actual documents are. And if you haven't done this yet because you think they're going to go over your head because they're all legal, then I want to make a recommendation. Print them out. Get a highlighter and highlight all of the non-legalese wording. Don't bother with these serial numbers and things like that. Just highlight what sounds to you like normal speak and go through and read those documents that way. And then you will understand what they're saying. And don't worry about the legalese aspects of it and all the legal references in it. Just read those parts. And you'll get them. You really will. If you have only jumped in a week ago or 2 weeks ago and you're trying to catch up, I highly recommend, again, going back. This is, what, our 5th show, maybe?
I'm
not sure.
There's only been a few.
Already.
It seems like years gone by already.
Oh, no. Go back and listen from the beginning to the Oppt-In shows here on Freedom Reigns. And also go back to the 8th of January when we came back online with the Collective Imagination show and listen to those. And do it in order if you can. Because what you'll find is your database it grows exponentially because no two shows were the same. And they often grew and expanded on information that came before. And what you'll also find out there right now is that there are people who have come on board just the last week or so, and they're finding material that was put out 2 months ago that has since been addressed. For example, Heather is actually a 25-year-old who 7 years ago when she was 18 was a drunk driver and killed some people. No, she wasn't. She's already addressed it. It was addressed in the first week of January, I believe. It's a different Heather. And Heather actually...
That's my most favorite one.
That's your favourite one. Heather's actually shown the documents, her bar cards and all of this, proving that she's not 25 years old. So if you come across that, if you haven't come across it yet, or if you do come across it next week and you think, oh my God, here it is, and start sharing it all over again, then, there's no need. It's been addressed. The other issue would be that Heather was involved in a trucking company. And again, what people are finding are little bits and pieces of information that were part of the investigation. The investigation went on for about 3 years. And when I say the investigation, what I mean is that lots of different remedies, so-called sovereign remedies, were investigated for their efficacy. And what was discovered was that they had a limit. They did not achieve what ultimately the UCC filings achieved. They worked a little bit for a little while under certain circumstances. And it wasn't until April of last year that this particular solution presented itself. And it was vetted and revetted for months before a single document was filed. So a trucking company was actually used as part of that investigation process, because one of the remedies apparently involves the Department of Transport. That was it. It's never been used. Not a viable company as such. And if anybody else knows anything else about that, they can add. No.
On the trucking company.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We have the funny thing about it is that we have emails back and forth. Like if somebody really wants to go back that far, because we covered that in literally the infant stages of this all coming out into the public. And we shared all of those emails back and forth with Heather on the American Kabuki blog. So go back americankabuki.blogspot.com and search around, I don't know, the 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th of December, and you'll find email conversations where Heather explains everything with the trucking company, which was set up as kind of a shell for the investigation. There wasn't really she in full detail and full transparency, because that's what you get when you ask Heather a question. It's all fully explained there. So what I would suggest, just to throw on my two bobs here real quick, is that if there's information that people stumble on that is filled with any kind of hate or negativity or just full-on slander, libel, or mudslinging, be cautious of that kind of material, because if anybody really is a true truth seeker, approaching it from that angle isn't necessarily the best, most effective way to go if you're trying to win over popular opinion. So that's what I would say look out for. Everybody has the right to do their homework and do their research. I mean, I did a search for One People's Public Trust in Google with quotations around it. Somebody called me out for not putting quotations around it before, which really encompasses only the One People's Public Trust, not just random websites that say People's or Public or Trust. It was at 720,000 responses or results back on Google last week. It's up to 1.23 million as of 10 seconds ago. So there's a lot of people that are going to be out there talking about it. And for every one person that's really trying to attack it because out of fear or fear of the unknown or whatever it might be, there's 100,000, if not a million people that are out there either A, supporting it, or B, holding the space that all of this is truth and is reality, because they have hope that there's something, that there's change coming. So that's the most important thing, is be careful of the people out there that are in attack mode. I just don't resonate with those types of opinions, and I don't think there's anything to be gained from approaching it from that level.
There's also a show called Dale After Dark, and I'm not sure who the host is, but in the first few minutes of the program, he said that he listened to one of our shows and he heard Heather say that she is a blood Rothschild. Now, if you haven't heard that show, then you might believe him. And I'm not saying he's lying, I'm just saying he wasn't really listening. That's not what she said at all. It's not even close to what she said. So this is why I'm saying be careful when you're going to these other commentators. Go to the source. Go to these shows, because this is where you'll hear directly from Heather. And she's only done a couple of other interviews with other people. But if you want to hear from her directly, then tune into this show. That's my recommendation. Go to the source. Or the collective imagination. Yeah, of course.
You know what, Lisa, if I could just jump in here for a second. And this is one of the issues. I get emails all the time saying, oh, so-and-so Wright said something terrible on the radio show, or so-and-so gave a report about this, that, and the other. And we have these things coming in. So, for example, and I'm not going to start naming names because I'm not even going to give them that space. None of those people, all those emails that I've received from people saying this person, that person, the other person, some of them are, well-known people on the internet, or they're saying this and that. Not one of those people has come forward to ask the questions directly to Heather or any one of us who's been, involved with OPPT right from the beginning. Not one of them. Now, one of the people who has been very, very vocal apparently lately, a well-known person in the Patriot movement, is a personal friend of mine. And, I said it to someone just recently, and I said, she has never made a single attempt to even talk to me, talk to Heather, to ask questions, etc., and yet is spouting all this misinformation. Well, that should say something right there. I mean, pretty much any time anything has come forward, Heather has addressed it immediately. And if it hasn't been addressed, there's a good chance that those people who are mouthing off have actually never made an attempt to contact her.
I think it's really important for people to start to do your own research. I mean, it's good to value someone else's opinion, but unless you've read the documents yourself, unless you've actually gone through that journey, and it is a journey. It's an amazing story when you go back and you follow along and you actually see what actually happened, because it puts you in a place that you really, really need to be when you want to exercise these documents. It puts you in a place of knowing, not believing, not hoping. Everybody can have their opinions on whether this is real or not, but the ones who are speaking out, we know it's real. We've watched and we've seen and we've looked at the evidence of it. And if you don't allow yourself that same opportunity, you're really doing yourself a disservice. Because anybody, you can take a picture, a photograph of yourself with your camera and say, yes, that's me, and somebody can debunk that. If you're looking for a debunker, that's what they do. You can debunk anything. But that doesn't necessarily mean that what is being debunked is not true. And you've got to have an opinion for yourself. Stop following. This is all about standing in your space. It's not about following Heather. Ask Dee. Her and Heather disagree all the time.
Yes, we do. Not so much anymore, but we have bumped heads several times.
So and we don't always agree with each other here on the panel. We have different opinions. We have different ideas about what may be taking place and what may not be taking place. But it's important for you to be confident and feel within yourself that this is real for you, that it's something that you believe in, that's something that you resonate with. How is it that you feel when someone tells you what you can and can't do, where you can and can't go, how you can and can't love, what you can and can't eat? How does that resonate with you? Is that true? Does that feel natural?
Well, this actually brings us to Winston Shrout. Now, he's a very well-respected man in the sovereign movement, considered a bit of the, the grandfather of the movement in some respects. And he did do an interview where he addressed OPPT, and there were two questions or two areas that he brought up that he was questioning in regards to OPPT. One of them was whether or not the documents were filed and recorded. Now, all of this, the response to these questions have now gone online on the American Kabuki website. Dee's also put a link to it on hers. On removing the shackles. Excuse me. The answer to that is yes, they were both recorded and filed. So if you weren't aware of that, then that's the answer on that. The other question was, what was the other one? Oh,
That's
the
lien
lien business.
Lien issue.
He said that it doesn't look like they actually did put a lien in, and if they did, it wasn't done correctly. The answer to that is no, they didn't, because as Winston very well explained, a lien is a claim on the title of an object, not the object itself. In other words, I think he used the example of a car, that if some guy comes and runs over his foot with their car, he can put a lien on their car. He's not going to take physical possession of their car, but what that does is means that that person who owns that car can't do anything with that car. They can't sell it. He's still got it. He still owns it. He's still driving it. He still has the use of it, but he can't sell it. He can't transfer the title. He can't do anything with the title while that lien's in place. And that lien can be in place until whatever demand, in this instance, Winston wanted to put on him for running over his toes, was met. It might be that he wants him to pay all his medical bills. And once that is met, the lien is lifted, the guy can transfer, sell his car. But by doing a lien, what you're acknowledging is the car belongs to that individual. It's their car. By doing a lien, in this instance, what she would have been acknowledging was that we, the people, belong to them. And I hope you get that. If she put a lien in, she would be acknowledging that we belong to them. We are their property. So a lien was not put in.
Okay, just to clarify,
that it was
by them, you mean the powers that were?
Of course, the powers that were. That she would be acknowledging that we are their property and chattel. Did somebody else have something to add to that?
I thought Bob was bringing. Yeah,
well,
but
no, I was saying that, and all the other assets was our property that was stolen from us. It's not another person's property; it's ours.
Yes.
So to put a lien, would say that it was their property and we're holding it until they pay this debt. But no, it was our property to begin with. It was stolen, so it's more of a repossession. Right?
It was a recovery of stolen property all the way through. They claimed they were the caretakers and the, if you like, the owners of the system, if you want to call them that they were acting on our behalf. And what the trustees did was present them with direct evidence that no, they were actually stealing from us all along, and they were abusing us. Hence the claim of crimes against humanity, treason, in fact. And that was what they were asked to rebut. That claim of being in complete and fraudulent and criminal action, deceptive acts and practices, ultimately, for generations, not just one instance. And of course that's not rebuttable because the evidence is everywhere around us. And that is why the powers that were have been unable to attack these filings, despite all of the expertise in UCC exists at the top end of corporations and not in the sovereignty movement. That's where the expertise is. They haven't been able to rebut the filings. So unless anyone else out there who's commenting on this would like to personally work out how to rebut the filings, please go back and read the documents and understand what's going on. Because commentary from a point of from the outside is usually based on experience gained by trial and error in bits and pieces, and not in really hardcore usage of the technology as the system uses it, which is where Heather's coming from. So the situation itself with the action they took is pretty clear. It was just, hey, you claimed you were the boss, but you were stealing our stuff. Prove you didn't? Oh, you didn't prove it, so we're foreclosing on you. Oh, but wait, we'll fire you first. And that's really all that happened. It was pretty straightforward.
Now we were
obviously...
Sorry,
yeah,
go on.
we took all the stuff back too and gave it to the people.
Now Heather really was hoping to join us today because she does have a lot of updates to let you in on, including about the CVAX. And it's really unfortunate that they mess with her to prevent her from getting on the show. But it doesn't look like she's going to make it unless she can pop in this last hour.
Yeah.
However,
I I do have a little bit of information about that, Lisa. If you, unless you want to speak to it.
No, you can do it.
Yep. Okay. Look, the progress on getting the CVACs actually ready to roll out is moving forwards. They're at the stages of finalising, the technological stuff and the funding issues behind it all. So it is actually closer than it was last week and reasonably imminent. But I can't be any more specific than that because I have no more information than that. However, I did have a request from Heather for everybody to actually think about and even discuss on this show. And that's the thing that we need to focus on is, okay, a funded CVAC actually comes into being. What are we going to do next? Now, if I said to, say, you, Bob, you have the whole resources of one CVAC entity behind you, which is quadrillions of dollars, what projects would you fund? What's first out of the blocks for you?
First out of the blocks for me would be an education and health center. Because I believe that people really need to be educated, and a lot of people, those two fundamental things is what drives everything. And I would fund anything that would help transform this world into a sustainable planet. Whether that be free energy, whether that be any humanitarian effort, I would be a part of. Because it's us who get, what is really possible? What kind of quality of life can we actually create for ourselves? I think higher than any of us can even realize.
Yeah, that's exactly the sort of discussion we need to have. Well, what I'll do is I'll quickly pass around the panel and we'll just kind of put out our initial response. Now Dee's putting her hand up here, so what would you do first, Dee?
Oh, pick me.
Yes, you, the noisy one in the corner.
Yes, the noisy one in the corner. I'll go put my dance cap back on, I'm sorry. You know what? I have been hugely involved in several different aspects, and I have got big plans. And one of them is obviously going to be, that Bob touched on, is the whole green energy and going into zero-point energy, pardon me, and going farther than that. My father has worked in the green energy industry for 20 years, and I already actually have a crap load of connections for desalination plants that are solar powered and the whole bit, and they are so simple. Some of the technologies that are available now are so simple, and they are just being blocked by the government. Waste disposal systems that are being blocked by every municipal, federal, provincial, and state government in North America.
So because the difference here, folks, is that this is resources in the hands of the people, being used for the people and not for government agendas driven by corporate owners operating in the background.
Exactly.
So Ken, what would you do first? Are you still with us, Ken?
Yes, I am. I have to mute my microphone. I think, in a very general sense, what I would really like to see, and I think it could be disseminated quite freely, and that is a re-evaluation of the education program. And let me explain. We've for too long lived in a world where there's always someone there to hold your hand or give you a directive or issue a statute which says you do things this way or that way, or you apply this, or you have to register to do that, or you need someone's approval. And in that process, we've forgotten how to think for ourselves. What I would like to see is an education program wherever it might be instituted, and I think with the primary school grade, I think is probably the best place, which gets people used to the idea of how to think for themselves, cognitively, rationally, evaluate data, make decisions, be responsible for their decisions. That part of the education program, to me, is very sadly neglected. What we've done is we've just brought up a race of slaves.
Yep, I hear you, Ken. And that gets my vote.
That was
too,
the objective, though, Ken.
Yeah, it was the objective, and it was quite achieved to it.
They achieved their goal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Brian, what about you? So I'll keep moving around the panel because I know we could all talk about this for hours.
Well,
what would you do first?
Well, first, my first item on the agenda is to play a support role to all of those that are in fear or confused by what's going on, and helping them to come to grips with the reality that is now upon us, and help them to understand that it's nothing to be afraid of, and that where we're headed is something that is a place that's more beautiful than we can possibly comprehend with our third dimensional conscious mind. But once everybody's gotten over to that hump of uncertainty, I think that I will be heading in the direction of where Hope Girl is with her Fix the World business plan. I mean, she's with her website that she's put together, and her Fix the World business plan has amazing ideas of just absolute brilliance. She's working on things like flying cars and free energy devices and how to fix a lot of these broken systems. I think having her and what she's putting together right now behind the scenes as a great point of making sure that all the options are on the table. I'm going to probably head over and see what she's up to, and then figure out where to go. Because the way I look at it right now is, I could sit here all day and say this is what I want to go do, but if you would have asked me the same question a month ago, I would have told you something that'd probably be absolutely irrelevant to where we are today. So it's for me, it's staying open-ended and very fluid, depending on what information and data I have available to me at any particular time.
Yep. And Lisa, what would you do?
Well, I know I'm supposed to be a clone, or not even here, and just a computer-generated program.
So you're a CGI, aren't you?
Yeah, but I actually would like to clone myself. I'd like about a dozen of me, so that I can do all the things I want to do. So many. I mean, there's a lot I would like to do just really in my local community. But the technology side of things is very, very exciting, and I know that there are about a dozen groups just in Australia alone who have, free energy technology ready to go to market, and they just haven't been able to get it through. Assisting in things like that. Also, the 5D media network. I really want to get that up and running and create a network, a real news program, and where people can go to and know that they're getting truth, they're getting the absolute data every day, useful information that is. Brian, can you mute, darling? Because you're typing and whispering and programs that really share real information with people that improve on their lives. God, too many things. The education system, as Ken talked about, I've got 3 kids in school, and I feel like my job is to counter what goes on there every day when they come home. Now I have to undo the damage. I don't want to feel like that. I want to know that my kids are actually growing and learning and expanding and being fulfilled.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's all of the above, because there's, I want to see all of those things happening. But there's an agricultural project that I've been somewhat involved with, and it's a very large-scale biochar recycling and agricultural land renewal program. Because if you take waste like the output from meat packing plants and you put it through a proper biochar system, you can create a huge amount of incredibly fertile land in a very short period of time, and you could grow things like hemp, which can be used for so many things. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And there's one particular gentleman who's known to all of the panel, who's got a project already on the books. It's already underway. He actually already has set up relationships with landowners and with hemp growers and the biochar technology, and all he requires is just some funding, and the whole thing will start to roll on. And there's just so many projects out there like that. And one thing I'd like to do, if there's people in the chat, and just put down the first project you would like to fund, because I just want to make a point while everyone's doing that. and Lisa can read back a bit of a list in a minute, is that if you look at the scope that we just covered in amongst 6 people, 6 people, health, education, energy, agriculture, communications, etc., etc., what you're really talking about are the CVAC systems that's specified. That's the meat of the actual CVAC, the formal CVAC entity run by us as a group, because we each individually are CVACs, and what we're going to be doing is co-creating a management system which coalesces and develops for the communities all of the things we've just talked about. And it is just such an exciting prospect to even be having this conversation. Before Christmas, you would have had to cut my leg off to convince me that I'd even be having this conversation right now. But here it is, about to happen. And we want to be ready. We don't want to be sitting around thinking in fear of oh my goodness, people are going to go nuts and party till they drop. Well, a few of them will, and some of those we can pull back from the brink, and others we might not be able to save them, but that's their free will choice. The vast majority of the human race, when they get over the initial shock of the sudden change, you're going to go, holy crap! Now we can do what humans do when they're left to their own devices, which is be creative. So I'd like to, Lisa, has anyone put down in the chat the sort of projects they'd like to run up?
They are, and it's all falling into the same categories, really. It's
just read out from the list. Read a few things out.
Well, I can't. They come by so fast. Helping families, raising their children. It's all to do with lots of health and well-being, organic gardening, environmental architecture and housing. For lots of free energy stuff and technologies. It's
ultimate healing center that would be free to the people.
Yep.
Natural
healing, alternative healing.
Yeah,
hey,
it sounds like Thomas is here.
Yeah, I was gonna see if I could take a stab at this.
Go for it.
I was gonna say we're all gonna go in different directions, obviously, with this. So I think where I would focus my attention is to educate and get the knowledge to all the people on Indian reservations so that they don't have to live in third world countries anymore.
Yeah.
The second poorest place in the entire world is the Cheyenne Indian Reservation in Wyoming. And that's probably where I'd start at.
Is that true?
Yep.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. So here's one of the things that I want to make sure everyone gets their heads around, is that you take a group of 20 individuals who are willing to share their abundance, and they could literally put together a fleet of aircraft packed with food and send in fleet after fleet after fleet into the middle of Africa and essentially head off the starvation that's rampant in several areas in Africa, at the same time building more permanent infrastructure as they go, because at a personal level. You could do that as a person. No governments required, no NGOs, no aid organizations, just people doing what they need to do. And another example, if you're in a country town in the United States and there's 30% unemployment, even one person with access to the kind of resources that appear to be available to us very shortly could turn that town around in a matter of weeks and months just by implementing social programs.
And fix things that need to be done. I mean, like, how many times have you driven down the road and you're like, God, I wish somebody would fix that pothole, and now you can do it. You can hire someone to do it.
Okay.
Yep.
It's
that's it.
I spent the last 2 days here with Len Histon, and what I've learned in playing this wisdom game, and we've been playing for the last couple of days, is that human beings are capable of some extraordinary things. That we're not really even tapping into our full potential, and when we have the ability and just to have the space and the time to sit back and ponder these things, because a lot of people don't even have that space and time that they allow for themselves to even think about any of these things. Go ahead.
If I could just say one more thing, and then I'll disconnect. The other thing that I would do is open a new rehab center called Cathaholics Anonymous, and I'm warning you, there's no 12-stepping a Cathaholic. You can laugh if you
Sorry,
like to.
did you say Cathaholic?
Yeah, Catholics that are coming off
Recovering
the
Catholics?
drug. Yeah, recovering Catholics. That's right.
Are they recovering from Catholicism, or are they recovering from other substance abuse?
Recovering from religion, period. So.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you, and I will leave now.
You can stay, Thomas. You don't have to rush off. We do appreciate you. But my point in this whole conversation is focusing on the incredibly positive aspect rather than the initial fear reaction that most people get when they suddenly think, well, hell, this sounds like it's chaos. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very fast-moving, but the positivity of it, we can't overestimate the effect the positivity will have in simply swamping whatever minor amounts of negativity arise when people who can't deal with this situation properly get out of hand, and the people around them will correct most of those issues. I don't see it as being a problem. And the system itself, the transformative process, I'll just say one more thing, the transformative process is something that we need to keep discussing every show to a degree. I just wanted to kick it off today by getting the guys in the chat. And is it still whizzing past, Lisa, with suggestions? The chat?
No, it's whizzing past with requests to answer questions. But,
okay. Well, let's pass into that
questions. Well, I don't know what they are because they're going by so fast.
Yeah.
But there is one question that's come to me from several sources. So it's in regards to using the courtesy notice on behalf of a minor in a person-to-person situation. So, I mean, even though we know that we're sending these courtesy notices to an individual, that the corporation doesn't exist anymore, but what if it's not to somebody who thinks they work for a corporation? The example given was your kid's being bullied at school. Can you send one to the parents of the kid who's doing the bullying? Can you send one to your neighbour, for example, if they're causing you distress? Can you, do you know what I mean? Not somebody who thinks they represent a corporation.
Actually, to give you a straight-off answer, I would say yes. But in fact, this is contextual. It's something that neither Ken nor Scott or I have I think we haven't even bent our thoughts in that direction. But the answer is yes, you could. But I think let's discuss that, and we'll come back to you folks in the next show, and I think we will have an answer for that. I can just see certain things may need to be tweaked a bit, but it's because that courtesy notice is individual to individual. Okay, but it's assuming a corporate approach. We need to review it and see how it sets with just straight individual to individual for some matter that's obviously fairly personal and close.
My feeling on that is that, I think the intention of the courtesy notice was to address the old system. The system that is persisting. But when it comes to dealing with people, is that what we really want? Sending each other paperwork. I don't know.
No, Bob, I agree with you that the role of the courtesy notice is to help us close down the old system. That's ultimately what it's trying to do. But we're going to a new area where we're now under universal law, common law, and UCC law. It's going to take a while to adapt to that. That's why that's the reason I want to. Sorry.
Talk to their parents. Why don't they just go and talk to them?
Yeah. The reason I want to take a week to have a think about it is just that.
Can I step in?
Yeah.
Hello. Yes.
Go.
The courtesy notice is fundamentally banks and government. Situations like kids being bullied at school is a matter for the parents to take up with the principals or the masters at the school. And one of the things that they need to be asked, if the teachers are not getting rid of the bullying aspect, then is to ask the teacher whether they approve of the idea of the society being run by bullies. And then it may be that you can hand them a courtesy notice and say, suggest you have a look through this, just to bring yourself up to speed with what's going on in the background. Maybe you need to get your act together. So you're not actually using the courtesy notice then in the normal sense of addressing it to a government or a bank, but you are in fact, and choosing which one is appropriate, of course, using it as a means of letting your teacher know that you're not going to condone bullying in the school and they need to do something about it.
Ultimately, my request to the people involved, particularly the headmaster of the school, would be to immediately begin teaching the students the meaning and application of the universal law.
Yes.
Because under universal law, there is no bullying. There cannot be bullying.
That's right.
Okay, well, let's bring some people out to ask some questions. We've got area code 917. Area code 917. You've got your hand up. Hello.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's your name?
I'm Michael. How are you all?
We're very well, Michael. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, thank you guys for everything you guys are doing. I'm trying to put a group together to start sending out some courtesy notices and doing and being. And a lot of the people in my group are wondering, they listened into that Winston Trout, and I'm glad that you guys addressed a lot of the things that Winston Trout brought up. One of the main questions that keeps coming up in my group is they're wondering who the grantors or the settlers of the trust are and who appointed the Heather and the other two as trustees.
Okay.
Did you want to speak to that, Bob?
They just have issues because there's two in the party that are kind of experienced because they have trusts that they've enacted, and they're just wanting to get those questions answered because they're curious as to how that all works.
Yeah, there seems to be a misconception that everybody's been placed under a trust called the One People's Public Trust, and Heather and the other two trustees are the trustees of it. That actually isn't accurate. What's happened is all the trusts that you were under without your knowledge and consent have been removed, is a more accurate way of looking at it. But Bob, go for it.
Well, first I would say this is a question that's asked by someone who hasn't contemplated maybe fully who they are. Who are you is the ultimate question. And when you answer that question, you find, exactly as the document says, you are the creator manifest in creation, experiencing itself as creation. So there's where your authority comes from. It comes from within you, right? What gives her the authority to do that? The fact that she remembered and she has the right to do it. But she could do it just for herself, or she could do it for everyone else. Because ultimately, we're all humanity. It only takes one person to remember that. Only takes one person to remember that you are self.
Okay. So are the terms trust and trustee sort of misapplied to the OPPT?
Are they? No, they're not misapplied. I mean, it's still a trust, but anyone could be trustee. I mean, if you had raised your hand to do it, you're basically becoming a servant to the people.
But doesn't the trustee have to be appointed by the grantor or settler, or the person who creates the trust?
Which is the creator.
The creator created the trust. It's going back to the original trust between the creator and us. It's reestablishing that trust.
So the creator is the person, or is the entity that created the trust, and appointed the three trustees and named all of us beneficiaries?
Actually, if I may jump in there, look, that's actually my understanding of it based on reading the documents. And if you've got people in your group who are somewhat legally inclined, I'd just encourage them to read the trustee bonds and as many of the filings as they can find that relate to refining the trust to what it ultimately became, which was simply the triumvirate this is my view of it, the creator as the grantor, we as the beneficiaries, and the trustees as the trustees. And if you want to ask who appointed the trustees, you would have to say, well, superficially, they appointed themselves, but in fact, what's really happening is that they're appointed. They're literally appointed by the creator.
Chris,
it's
simpler than that. You are part of the trust. The trust includes the creator, the planet, all the manifestations therein. That includes you, at least your body, at least your DNA. That's the creation. Okay. You are the consciousness behind it. You are the creator. You are the creator. You are the creator of your body. You are the creator of all that is you. And you are experiencing yourself through your creation. It is your consciousness, right, that is inhabiting your body. And that is where the authority comes from. And this is why what I said, this person has not really contemplated really who they are. You are the creator, your consciousness. Everything is based on that. Consciousness is the primary factor in the whole universe. And it is your consciousness that creates your body.
And as trustees, what kind of power or control do the trustees have over the trust?
Read those documents, and you'll see what they have is 100% liability. They've put themselves into that position with complete liability for doing the right thing on behalf of everybody on the planet.
They actually have they've got no control at all.
Authority and control over anybody.
Yeah.
So
they put all
as
the power in the hands of the
we don't
people.
have to turn to them for any sort of, in regards to them administering the trust or any of that. We don't have to look to them for
permission.
Well, just administering the trust. There's no control that they have that we, as beneficiaries, need to turn to them for.
If you read
it's a spiritual trust, in my understanding.
If you read the documents,
you as the creator.
One of the things that's spelled out for the trustees is that they are to offer assistance, but you are to have unencumbered access to all of your value, and they are there to offer assistance in that. That's it.
Great. Okay, so what doc should I show my group?
The trustees bond an oath first. And one of the other documents, unfortunately, are scattered throughout the website. What I think I'll do for next week, I'll make a list of the actual documents that deal with the structure of the trust, because we keep getting this coming up regularly, and I just want to identify the ones that people need to go and have a look at. But I'll give you an example of ones that you need to look at, and they're pretty obvious. In the UCC filings menu, there is a document called One People Secured. They need to read that.
Okay.
That's in 2012 Part 1. And in 2012 Part 2 menu, they need to read Order of Reconciliation Earth Secured, and Co-Custodian. Now, just one final comment before you go. But what Bob's saying is absolutely accurate. What they've done is returned us to our original state where there was nothing here but us and the planet and the Creator. The trust structure is actually a human construct, and because we've been using that concept for hundreds of years, they've simply used that framework because it's part of UCC law and part of common law. It's a common aspect in the way that we administer ourselves. We can kind of create a human construct which sort of fits the situation, but it's still not the real base situation that Bob was describing. And the base situation is the one we really need to keep our eyes on, because that's where our equity is. That's where we all have an equal share an access to the resources of the planet, but at the same time we're co-custodians with the planet and we're required to look after it. So there's just nothing else in the landscape anymore, and the trustees simply brought the trust into existence to give themselves the tools to remove the obstructions that were between us and the Creator, if that makes sense. And they don't stand between us and anything. They are in fact the ultimate public servants at this point.
And I want to also speak to this too, because there's something behind this question, and it's an old paradigm thought. What's behind this question is, who's in charge?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, that was the two questions that they were hoping to have answered.
Right. Well, no one's in charge. You are in charge of you. This is what it means to be 100% liable. You are in charge of you and your dealings and the things that you create. Okay? That's you are in charge. There is no hierarchy. And when people start to, understand that, that there's no one in charge, no one's under anyone or anything. It's putting the responsibility back in your hands. It's, here's the driving wheel. Take it, right? It's no longer going to be on autopilot, if you choose to. I mean, you can leave it on autopilot if you wish. Right? And someone else or a machine can make the decisions for you if that's your free will choice.
Right.
But there's no one in charge. You are.
Great. Well, I appreciate for everything that you guys do, and I'm glad that you answered those questions, because I think it'll alleviate a lot of people who are still on the fence. And do you think that there will ever be a page on any of the sites showing successes with any of the courtesy notices or any success stories?
Brian, is that being built?
Yeah.
That's being built. Yep.
Yeah, we're working on. We're doing some major developments with the website. That's one of the things that's going to be included. So we'll have all sorts of stories and success stories coming soon.
Great. Well, thank you guys.
Thanks,
God bless
Michael.
you all, and I'm sure this will alleviate a lot of questions that my group has. So much love and light to you all.
Thanks for
Thank
calling.
you.
Cheers. Can I just add to that last point?
Yes.
Regarding the time it takes to get some successes from courtesy notices, the process here can stretch on for weeks, even months. The second side of that question is that what you really want is someone's silence. Now, you might send out a courtesy notice and get no response for 6 weeks, and then suddenly you get another demand. Now, that 6 weeks period doesn't necessarily mean that you had success. If you get another demand, it just means they went away to have a little huddle in the corner and have a think about how they were going to handle the issue before they got back to you.
Over the water cooler. Yep.
So when people get no response, does not necessarily mean that they've got success, because it could still come up again. So for people to expect that they're going to send this courtesy notice out and get an instant success is a myth, and that needs to be fully understood. On the other hand, if someone does get a letter immediately which says we're withdrawing all action and we're going to cease, we're not going to do any further with your case, wonderful. That is a success.
Yep. Well said, Ken. Thank you.
And we'd like to hear about that too. Use the FORAPAC email for that as well. That can be quite useful.
I'm actually making a list at the moment of people who are sending their praises in. Many of them, of course, are concerning the answers that we've given them, expressing their thanks and gratitude for receiving quick answers to their questions. But I expect also to see a trickle of people coming in and saying, hooray, it worked.
All right, thank you, Ken. We've got caller area code 323.
Hello there.
Yes, hello there. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Tamara.
Sorry,
Davis.
Tamara.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, perfect. I just first of all would like to thank all of you for all the clarification that you've done and your dedication, the time that you've spent, and the absolute integrity that you brought to the table when it comes to actually really looking at the documents. I followed every single show, and I read all the documents, and even the shows that are not necessarily in favor of what's happening here. So I have two questions, and I think this question is for Chris. Regarding the courtesy notice, I believe I would use the future notice in the event that I would want to stop, or not stop, but I guess give notice to the council here in Sonoma County regarding fluoridating the water. I have actually already sent, or I've actually already sent them a courtesy notice of the first version, but since this version is a better and updated version, which one would I use?
I would actually use the one that's going to get posted next, because we are, if you like, refining the wording in the duly verified declaration of facts, and actually strengthening it with each release, and obviously, giving you more options with each release. And at the moment, for instance, we've got one which is for we call it slavery foreclosure individuals, which is an instance where harm's caused to an individual. But I'll have a look if you want to lay a specific complaint against a corporation for a harmful act against everybody, then I think we just need to give a little tweak to the way that particular declaration of facts is actually written, and I think you'll get the result you're after, which is a document you can send to them saying, you're doing me harm by this specific action, and you are perpetuating a slavery system as well, and it's saying cease and desist. And if they do respond, you can then justifiably invoice them and continue to do that on a daily basis. So that's why I say that when people say, we get emails from people saying, look, I think I want to tweak this bit and that bit. And what we say to them is don't tweak anything. The only area that you might tweak, if you're very careful about it, is the duly verified declaration of facts right at the start, where you're defining the respondent and what actions they took that actually caused you the right to courtesy notice to them. So it's a very good question, and so these questions will actually cause us to tweak things a little further and change the language we're using, and we'll be able to cast a wider net.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. So I'll wait till next week. I actually have a second question as well, and this is for really anybody there. It's my understanding that once these documents were filed and we received our, we finally came into our abundance and our freedom, that the other side, the dark side, was to be honored as well, and honoring them, anchoring that energy for us to experience duality. That being said, it seems that since those documents were filed and public notice was given, up until public notice was given, is my understanding that every other darker entity that anchored there, are they also forgiven? And at this point, are we sort of resetting the clock and saying, okay, now you are liable for your actions?
Yeah, really good, really good.
Thank you. Hope is a really good example. That's a very obvious good example. So could you speak to that? Somebody?
I can say that what Heather's been talking about of late is what she's calling the energetic accounting. And we touched on it last week on the Collective Imagination show. Yeah, if the game is over, it's time to balance the books, is the way I look at it. It's our energetic balancing of the books. And now everybody is at a choice point.
This is a good, probably. I'm sorry, Lisa. You're still going.
Go ahead. You're competent a bit.
Well, no, I wanted to talk about the treason trackers thing because I don't think it's been addressed since last week. About how the connotation behind treason tracker is, it kind of implies that we're taking it into our own hands to enforce liability or accountability. and it's just had a really negative energy behind it. So when we brought it up to Heather and we kind of all tossed it around, we realized that it's one thing to not want to let certain individuals get away with crimes against humanity, but it's another thing to try to create our own FBI's most wanted list, because it uses the same energy. It reciprocates the same kind of energy that perpetuated the situation to begin with. And so the energetic accounting is a great way to kind of recourse that idea, because ultimately everything is being kept track of on a higher level. There's no deed that goes past the point of absolute getting through the Akashic records and getting through absolute data. Now, what we don't know yet is how is energetic accounting enforced, but that's not, as far as my personal opinion, that's not necessarily for us to particularly spend or divulge a whole lot of energy on, because it's going to get accounted for one way or another, and it's not necessarily up to us to try to be the enforcers, because that's not our role. So I don't know if that answers it, because what we want to do, we're not abandoning the project, but we're abandoning the energy of Treason Tracker. We want people to know that are out there that if they make moves that are going to cause harm to others, that there's people that are going to be watching and noticing, and that it's going to be out in the open for everybody to see. But just calling it Treason Tracker is not the way we want to go. Yeah.
Okay, so
but that's on a very 3D level, though. And what else is? I think your question initially was in a.
My question really is not really regarding that, but although I do appreciate that information, so thank you. My question really is, at this point, do we really, in our souls, forgive the past of what has been anchored in the dark? And, I mean, is this a reset? So at this point forward, this is what counts if there are any sort of harm that comes to anybody else. I guess what I'm trying to ask is, are we resetting the clock and wiping the slate clean? That's my question.
I think so. And I think that those who make a choice to continue are now making a conscious choice, knowing the consequences energetically. They're doing it knowingly. Go ahead, Thomas.
Heather is online. I just saw her sign under Skype, so you may be able to get her now.
Oh, great.
I've had Heather on twice now for 30 seconds each time. I'm going to try and pull her in.
Does that answer your question more?
Yeah, I think so.
I think we're all at a point now where that we're realizing it consciously yet or not, that we are making choices from this point on, and that goes for all of us, no matter what role we've previously played in the game.
Good. I just want to say something about that. To me, the word forgive is like foreknowledge is forearmed, and so foreknowledge means that you had knowledge before the actual event, and forearmed means you were armed before you needed to be armed. So the only way the word forgive can really apply is if you forgive yourself, because you're the one that did it.
Well, also, to me, the word forgive implies that they did something wrong. Now, did they do something wrong, or were they just playing the role that we agreed that they should play?
I think they were just playing the role.
Right. So to forgive someone implies that there was a wrong done. And maybe they didn't do a wrong. Maybe they just played their role absolutely as scripted, and agreed upon by all.
Yeah, but as you point out, they're off script now.
They're off script now. That's it.
Out. And if anyone out there hasn't read it, the filing that's posted actually on Lisa's homepage on her website is the final filing from December 10 last year, which clearly ends that part of our history. So as Lisa said, the actions of individuals now are assuming different energetic proportions, and really we should at this stage be looking at a future free of false flag events, of wars, etc., etc., because the influence of these folks should actually have gone by now. And you can all look around you and see, well, it may appear to have softened, but it's not gone. And I think that's pretty realistic. And all we can say to those people is, wake up. It's actually time to end this process, and so we can all move on.
Yeah, and something that we can...
Paul too.
Yeah, something that we can look at is the law of balance is always in effect. Mm-hmm. So instead of forgiving them or holding them accountable, just look at them and give them a choice, because they have free will choice as much as we do, and allow them to balance. Allow them to balance what they have done.
I think that really the underlying answer to all of this is that the answer to all questions, really. I have a bracelet that I wear. It says, "Love is the answer. Love is the way." And if we just love each other, I realize that's a hard thing to do when you take into consideration some of the things that have been done. But trying to go toe-to-toe or fist-to-fist or whatever with people that you feel have wronged you is never going to solve any problems. It only perpetuates negative energy. And if we just love each other no matter what, as sparks of the infinite, as all being one, as all part of the same creator, then ultimately everything will end up taking care of itself in the long run anyways.
And speaking on that, you can change the way you look at love by realizing that love is an acronym. LOVE is living one vibration everywhere. And so when somebody goes to a comedy routine and everybody in the auditorium is laughing, guess what? They're all living the same vibration everywhere in that auditorium. So let's quit looking at love as something that goes on between a man and woman or anything like that. Let's start looking at it as an acronym. And let's all start living one vibration everywhere.
Yep.
I just want to say
love.
thank you. Thank you for expressing how you felt about that. That is actually in frequencies to where that's exactly the way that I feel as well. That's the frequency that I vibrate on as well. Because I think also our energy can be used in a way that to get these CVACs up and running and actually get these projects up and running. I mean, we need to focus. People start focusing on that. Everything else is just going to be ignored and and it will go away. So, I mean, not always, but the majority of it. People will see we're having fun over here and we want to join us here versus going over there where it sucks. So
it's much more fun over here. This is fun.
Exactly. We just want to have fun. So I just want to say thank you. And I will mute out now. Thank you.
Well, we love you.
Thank you, Tamara. Okay, we'll try and get through as many questions as we can in the next 15 minutes. If Heather does keep popping on and popping off, but it's literally for seconds at a time, so it's not working. Area code 206. Area code 206?
Yes.
Yes, hello. What was your name?
My name is Tyrone.
Hi, Tyrone. How are you?
I'm all right, and you?
We're really good, mate. Do you have a question?
Yes, my question kind of got answered a little bit, but I was just wondering, once you send your courtesy notices in, and they reply back, and the reply is saying, well, no, you still have to pay this or that, and no, we're not foreclosed entity, and I've even had one person even say they're willing to go to court and say that that's not true what I sent them on the courtesy notice.
That's not surprising. Really, they haven't bothered to look into it at all.
Yeah, that we're getting a lot of that reaction, Tyrone, and that's just people who aren't even they don't even start researching it. What you need to do is send them the invoices because they've triggered the contract. Mm-hmm. And if you feel like putting in a covering letter, say that they just point out that these filings stand in law, and that they better take it seriously and do their research. Okay, because you've got to actually keep the system is built to resist any attempt for the for the slaves, that's us, to not pay the slave masters their due.
Mm-hmm.
So you really need to send them their invoices straight away, promptly, and a covering letter saying, this is serious, please do your research.
Mm-hmm.
UCC law is the dominant commercial law on the planet.
Okay.
And these the only thing they could possibly do is rebut the filings. So suggested to them they better do some research and work out how to do that if they want to have any success with you.
Okay, and one more question. Like when the banks say that's what I need, how I need to reply to the banks, also, right?
Yes, it's the same reply. They're all foreclosed.
And the IRS.
Yep, all of them. They're all corporations.
Okay.
All of them.
The process is the same no matter which corporation you're dealing with.
It is.
So thank you, Tyrone, for your question, and we're going to keep moving on and try and get through as many as we can.
I appreciate everyone for everything they've done.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Keep going, man.
All right.
Okay, we've got area code... Oh, hang on, it hasn't unmuted. There we go. Area code 646.
Hi there.
Hi there. What was your name?
It's Rick. How are you?
I'm good, Rick. What can we do for you?
This is a really good discussion tonight, and again, like the other callers, I just want to say that one of the reasons that I keep listening is that you people vibrate with such love, with such integrity, with such patience. And you're here every week. That's what really brings me back, and I'm just hungry for more information and more knowledge, and just to hear your voices. I feel like I'm getting to know you people. But my question is, we've been talking a lot tonight about loving people, forgiving people, and we've also called them slave masters here and there. And it came to mind that it's kind of like a chess game. If you're having this nice chess game with someone who, say, is your former slave master, and we put the clever person in front, like, say, Heather, and she's playing chess against the slave master of the world, and she cleverly keeps the slave master into checkmate, and she just looks at him and she goes, checkmate, and that should be that, right, according to how you're saying that it's now going to flow out and work and everything. But I'm thinking that the slave master is a psychotic son of a bitch who's going to take kick the chessboard up into the air and start stuffing chess pieces down her throat. So I'm
hey, but when you lose at chess, you, that doesn't mean it doesn't lose anymore. He's still lost no matter how many pawns he swallows down.
I liken it to, if you're watching a play and the villains and you got the heroines and they're fighting each other, and whoever wins and the final curtain ends, but they keep on fighting. That's what it means to me to be off script. The play is over, but some people are still fighting and still playing their roles, even though the curtain's gone down.
Yeah. The director's
my question,
but that's still going on.
Yeah. My question for you then is this, and I see you. I feel you people really being, and Heather always talks about doing and being. And I moved to the country from New York City about a year ago just so I could get away from all of the frenzy and everything. And now I go back in there and I just see these people that are just so plugged into everything, and I just want to kind of move away from it rather than confront it or even muster up the patience to try to deal with it. So what's the nice sweet spot? What's a nice sweet spot of doing and being with people who are off script?
Information. The reason they're still behaving in that frenetic manner is that they just don't have the information yet. It's coming, and it will get to them, and you won't miss it when it does. But that's the difference between where you're at and where they're at, is the information that you are open to that they're not.
I think that's the important point. You've got the memo, they haven't.
That's
Indeed.
all.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And as far as the system itself, the system has a tremendous amount of momentum, but can you? I mean, I can feel it winding down. Are you hearing about Afghanistan and Iraq and Syria now? Not really. Okay, there's stuff that's just kind of winding down. Nothing is really happening. Nothing new is happening. The financial system's just kind of suspended there on smoke and mirrors. So, I can see the chess pieces might have fallen on the floor, but they're all just kind of rolling to a stop now.
Thank you, Rick, for calling in and for your questions. We're going to quickly move on, see how many more we can get to. But thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have area code 606. Area code 606.
Hello.
Hello. What was your name?
Hello. My name is Mark. I have a question now. The Fed is supposed to be no more. There was a 100-year contract with them, and they were supposed to be dissolved in December. I didn't file my taxes last year. And I've got an appointment tomorrow because I'm going through unfortunately, I'm going through bankruptcy, and I was told that I need to file. So I'm just a little confused. I'm kind of new to this, but why does the IRS have this power yet over the citizenry, or do they?
Well, they sure are pretty. No, they don't. They're good at creating the illusion that they still have that power over the citizenry or the people, but that's just because the people are still in a place where they don't all know yet, and they're complying. If everybody all at the same time became aware that the IRS is no more, they're part of the system that has been foreclosed on, well, they would lose all their force and they would lose all their power. So it's up to everybody to decide at this point when they come to decisions like that what they choose to do. Because what we can't do is give anybody any legal advice or tell people this is what you need to do and how you should handle it. But at this point, it's up to you whether or not you decide to comply while we're waiting for the whole house of cards to come tumbling down publicly.
But
personally, I'm sorry. To your meeting. That's what I would do. But that's, again, it's not legal advice. I'm just telling you what I would do under those circumstances.
You say you would wait?
I know I would. Well, if your meeting's tomorrow, did you say?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. You could take a courtesy notice along with you and hand that over before you even sit down and have a discussion with them. But that's, again, I'm just saying that it's not legal advice. All I can give you is what I would do under those circumstances.
You understand, I'm a little concerned about signing this form, and then of course
it's an educational piece of it's a piece of educational material and an offer from you to them to contract, because and it's up to them whether or not they wish to accept that offer. They've presented you with an offer. That's all they've really done. They've presented you with an offer to come in and go through an arrangement where you'll pay them some money.
Right. Well, see, I've been asked by my lawyer to file before the bankruptcy is filed. So I wasn't going to file at all. I wasn't going to file this year anyway either, because I'm trying to let them die, So.
Yeah, well, we don't want to give the system any more value by continuing to participate with it, and this is where the rubber meets the road. It's that moment where you've got to make a decision whether to actually stand in the space that's been provided
Mark,
by the OPPT's actions.
Mark, if you did a little research, you'll find that the IRS was illegal from the get-go.
Right.
So, they were. That was always something that was by consent, and there is no law that requires you. But
just remember that what they've sent you is an offer. They just make it look like a demand.
Right.
Right. Except that like I said before, I'm being asked by my bankruptcy lawyer to file, and so now I feel like I'm caught between a rock and a hard place. Either so. Okay,
guys, we only have 60 seconds left. We will go over time. You won't hear it if you're just listening on Blog Talk. If you've called in, you'll continue to hear the program. But you'll be able to hear whatever happens after this on the recording. if you go back and listen to it, that will be available within 5 minutes of us actually finishing the show. But I know we're going to lose a lot of you in the next few seconds. Excuse me. But if you've called in, you'll be able to hear the rest of the show. Thank you very much, Mark. I hope we've been able to give you some guidance there.
Yes, you have, and I want to say thank you to all of you.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
We will try and move on and get to as many of these people as we can. They've been holding on for quite some time.
You're right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Everybody join in tomorrow, tune in tomorrow for the Collective Imagination Show. If we don't have Heather, we obviously didn't get Heather today, but we'll hopefully have her tomorrow. So tune in then. And we'll talk to you.
See, if it wasn't for the bankruptcy, I wouldn't even get.
Oops, sorry, I think I just cut him off.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to. Sorry, Mark. Area code 818. Area code 818.
L.A.?
Hang on, it's still coming
is that
through.
Me?
That's you, yes.
Oh,
What was your name?
yeah, I'm in Southern California. Hello?
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, I was reading all the documents. I'm sorry, I have a heavy accent.
That's okay, I can understand you, but what's your name?
Melba.
Melba.
Hi, Melba.
Hi. How are you?
Good.
Okay, I've been reading all the documents from Curtis Norris, and I haven't ready, to send it to the bank because I have a mortgage. And but my question is, because I don't have the name of the person to send it, to the bank. So, and what should I do? Should I just say the name of the bank?
No, you do want to get it to an individual, but if you go on to, I think it's a consumer, what's that website? There's a website that will actually, there is a website, I'm trying to think of the name of it, that will actually give you the name, at the very least, of the CEO or the CFO.
Business Bureau, I think.
The Better Business Bureau.
Oh, should I send it to the CEO?
If you can't find the name of an individual lower down, if you can't find...
they won't give me their name, complete name.
Yeah, they rarely do.
Yeah.
So at the very least, you can go straight to the CEO or the CFO.
CEO?
Yeah,
okay.
and their name you should be able to get.
Yeah. The other place you'll find it is the banks almost always have websites with some details of senior officers on them.
Yeah, I did find out, this is a city, and this is, a huge bank. And I did find out, who is the CEO.
Okay. Well, that's your best bet then, if that's the only name you can get. It's not uncommon for them not to give any detail of that at all. So, thank you.
Yeah, if you want to go lower down, I would actually call the bank and start asking for various managers if you would like to go lower down, and you will get a name eventually. But through the sorts of people who take specific calls, they're trained to not give their names, and it's actually unlawful for them to do that, but they're trying to avoid liability.
Yeah.
But you will eventually get a name.
I just want to say something to her as well. If they don't cooperate with your notice, it's time to go down there and give them some chingazos.
Really?
Why not?
All right. Thank you, Melba.
All right,
we'll keep moving on.
You.
Thank you. Okay, we have area code 860.
Fantastic. Am I on?
You are on. What was your name?
I want to just say I love all you people. I am so into what you're doing, and I'm right there with you. Can you hear me?
Oh, we hear you.
We can. Thank you.
I'm a carpenter, and if I was going to end up anywhere, I'd be in a building and trades CVAC. And in the trades industry, a lot of it is specialization. In other words, you got siding guys, you got sheetrock guys, you got electricians, you got plumbers, blah blah blah. And you touched earlier on looking forward to what we should do with the CVACs and what stuff like that. but I'm so excited. But I think as far as the show is concerned, like these show tonight, what you may have to do, or may I suggest, is that if we can have a show every night that specializes in something like, somebody has questions on the letters or whatever, and separate things. So like on Wednesday nights, okay, we're going to be talking about this, and so on and so forth. But I also want to mention that if you can have like a guest on, sort of like Peter Joseph or Jacques Presto and Roxanne Meadows, that would be awesome. I can't wait till they get on board with this, because I'm waiting. I'm dying to hear what they have to say. And I have a whole laundry list of stuff to talk about, and I'm not going to use up all your time. But if you could just elaborate on that a little bit, I'd appreciate it.
on whether we can do shows every night. Are you volunteering to be a host for all the other nights of the week?
I'm not as eloquent as you guys. I'm a numbers guy. I'm a carpenter. But I would.
Look, we've heard the call. We've been doing it a lot lately. That people want more than 2 shows a week, and it's just simply a matter of time that's available by each of us. And we're looking into it.
Yeah, it's overwhelming, and we all have to get involved with this, and I'm there. I'm ready to go. You know what I mean? Whatever I could do, if you want me to bang a nail, I'll bang a nail.
Thank you so much. That's beautiful.
We'll make it. We got a volunteer for the OPPT ground crew nail bangers. Perfect. All right, cool.
Yeah. Just wanted also to comment that Lisa wasn't kidding when she said she wants to clone herself. And one of the plans we have is if not actually physically, but she just wants people as motivated as she is around her, helping her do what she does. And that as soon as the CVAC system becomes available, that will all spring into life, simply because we'll have some resources and people can give up their jobs if they want to and throw in and help. And that's coming.
Yeah, see, that was another concern of mine, was like, I'm a subcontractor, and I've been on the fringe of society for quite a while. If you could, if someone wanted to quit their job and get into a CVAC, say like a building and trade CVAC, to start implementing different programs or whatever, how would they be able to survive, financially, as far as food, clothing, and shelter, communications, and transportation is concerned?
You will actually be given access to all of your own assets.
That's beautiful.
Energy?
Yeah, I mean,
equity.
Equity.
That's what the CVAC does. It's Creation's Value Asset Center, so it can be used to make sure all of your needs, your first and foremost, your basic living needs, and then however far you want to take that. So that's what a CVAC is. It allows you the resources to be able to do the things you want to do without having to worry about paying the bills.
Yep.
Yeah. That's a great thing, because I mean, I'm ready to leave the old system, the powers that be, whatever. And also, I wanted to mention another good idea as far as like setting up the CVACs and forward thinking is like Occupy Wall Street has the General Assemblies where a voice from inner city Chicago, from the slums, if he's got a great idea, it's as valuable as everybody else's idea. You don't have to come from any certain kind of pedigree or financials, stratification or anything like that. Everybody's thoughts are equal. So that's really important too, is to set up, like all these ideas. We have to bring them together, because they're all just fantastic.
That's happening right now on a much larger scale than you might be able to understand at this moment. So what you have to, one really important aspect of all this to understand is that this whole One People's Public Trust and everything that's been going on behind the scenes has been a development that's been going on for many years. So there's all sorts of people that are working behind the scenes to roll out all sorts of fascinating new projects, inventions, free energy. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. It's just not out in the open just yet. But once it is, it'll explode, and by all means, you will have plenty of access to get involved with all sorts of fascinating projects all around the world, globally. That's what's coming right now.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's something to look forward to, because we can transform this place so quick. Like someone mentioned earlier about just getting food out to Africa within it's amazing what the human spirit is capable of. And
because what you have to remember too is whereabouts are you now in the US?
Connecticut.
Connecticut. Okay, you're sitting in a country with no borders.
Yeah.
Because all the corporations that ran the country is gone. And there are no countries because all the governments are gone. There's nothing but us here. And the whole concept of having to produce passports to move from place to place is just going to fade away as the old system fades away.
Yeah.
And
we're
boy,
going to
do
need
I look
someone
forward to that.
to replace all the globes because they all have borders on them, and now we're going to have to place CVAX on them. So we're going to need someone to build new globes.
Oh, look, that's what they got museums for the old ones. That's okay. That's all history. But you can globes. You can get globes that have just got the land masses on them. So let's use those.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to get moving.
Okay, I'll let you go. I don't want to take up everybody else's time, but thank you for allowing me to.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Okay, we have Prince, who made such an impact at the end of last week's show, back on. Prince, hang on, sorry, not muting him. I'm not unmuting him. Hang on. Prince, you there?
Yes, I'm here. How's it going, everybody? Can you hear me?
Good.
We're going
we can hear you, man.
All right, man. I've been kind of choppy and everything. I've been listening to the show all night, kind of on and off, kind of how Heather's bouncing on and off the internet and whatnot. I think I may have lost you guys now, but hello? Yeah.
You're still on.
Okay, see, that's what I'm talking about. It sounds a little choppy, but anyway, I feel the compelling energy that just is resonating all over the world right now. I mean, I can feel it in the silence that just was. It's like I want to say everything that was already said. You know what I mean? These last few calls have culminated into this moment of this awakening that's going to continue to just spark every mind across the world one by one. It's just magnificent. You know, I feel it. It's like that tingly feeling when your leg starts to wake up. You know, it's that magnificent just epiphany that just comes from the being of consciousness. You know, it's just the awakening. It's here. I mean, there's nothing I can even say. There's no question. I'm on board. I'm waiting for the CVAX to come into fruition. I'm ready for them to just drop from nothingness like the pyramids. I mean, I'm ready. Let's go.
Yeah, we're all ready. And Heather's really down on the finer details. And
that is the page.
Yeah. Thanks, Prince. Laying it down.
Thank you, guys.
I'll leave your mic open, Prince, and we'll just move on to the next person.
Before you do that, I just want to say bye. I'm at a sign off, so bye, everybody.
Okay,
bye. Love, and like always, peace.
We have what's showing up as area code 111. So.
God?
Skype call.
Is it God?
No, it's just a Skype call.
111. In fact, is what it's showing up as. So if you're in the queue and you've put your hand up, please just say hi. It may be you. Hello?
Hello?
No?
I don't know,
yes.
maybe because my telephone is not shown, maybe that's why it's 111.
What was your name?
Yes. My name is Irina, and I just want to ask at first, when the show is, usually when the show time is coming, when usually every day, or not every day, and what time the show is running?
Excuse me, this show is on every week, depending on where you are. It's either Monday evening at, what's the US times?
It's at 4 o'clock on Mondays Pacific time, 7 o'clock Eastern.
7 o'clock Eastern.
7 o'clock Eastern.
Okay. 7 Eastern till 9 Eastern, or till when?
Correct. Till 9.
Okay.
We are running over. They tend to give us a little bit extra if we need it. But that's it, once a week. And then the following day we have the Collective Imagination Show, which is 1 hour later.
So 8. So it's starts at 5 Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern.
8 o'clock Eastern. And the telephone for that show would be different, right?
Yes, if you go to the Blog Talk channel, you'll find the call-in number for it.
Okay.
They're different each time. Did you actually have a question on that, Adina?
Yes, I do have a question. I don't know how I can ask that quickly, but I have an unbelievable situation when somebody who came from foreigner country. My husband is American, born American, and he bought in the middle of his life with me together the house, which we 15 years we paid mortgages, never were late. We paid taxes, we developed the property, put retirement money in, and we're going to retire there. All of a sudden, next to us bought an immigrant from small country, Estonia, and he demanded openly that he is going to take all our land, and we are supposed to give it to him as a gift. First, the fire department was involved, delivering to him that. Then Department of Building approved him build. Then police department okayed him to beat us up, to threat our lives, and to finally we went to court, and in the court named as a corrupted judge by Daily News, Larry Martin. He is granting practically our property to that person. All our motions for injunction, preliminary injunction, all of it denied. Or he practically denied even motions which never had a hearing without anyone's presence. So he is going wild. In court, we are abused, we are yelled at. The clerk of his acting like an advocate for that Estonian immigrant. So if he doesn't show up, it's automatically adjourned without any agreement from us. We are practically victimized everywhere he goes. We went to local government, public advocate Bill de Blasio in New York City, dumping us. And then in February of last year, it was 2 policemen on our property, and they arrested us, frame us to go to jail for 7 years. Thank God we had security cameras, and we showed that we didn't do anything wrong. Our case was dismissed, but all policemen, sergeant and policemen, they never got punished. So the person who needed that us to go to jail and take our property, our home, our money, he was actually right there, and he was watching how they were performing that. He never was questioned. He also stated, even to report it, that he saw that we were killing police officers, which never happened. So nobody ever punished him or anyone else. So one of the policemen were sent to jail for 1 night, not even felony. So we practically getting destroyed. We lost $150,000 stolen by the attorneys. One attorney after another sign retainer with us, take the money and gone. And this Estonian just laughing to our faces. He is ready to take us over. And I'm sure he doesn't pay that big money to take us over. Who's behind him? Who we should send?
Sorry. Can I just interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
What is this person's claim on your property?
No, he's not claiming. He's demanding that we must give it to him, our land, as a
based
gift.
on what?
Based on nothing. Based that he's such a great person. He's above the law, and we are garbage. We're not even humans, And that's based on its only basis that he's demanding it. So wherever we go,
and this is actually getting traction in a court.
It's everywhere. I mean, in the court, in the local government offices, they think it's a civil matter. It's not civil matter. We looked at penal code, penal law of United States and New York State precisely, and federal law of United States. None of those laws permitting to behave like that. Matter of fact, for this kind of behavioral, taking over anything above $50,000, people go to jail, supposed to go to jail for 20 and more years. So it's a severe crime. He's a danger to us.
You actually have sorry, I know this is an important story to hear, but we're running on borrowed time at the moment. And did you actually want to pose a question, or are you just telling the story?
Yes, the question is whom do I send the notice? Whom do I send the notice? How to approach it? Do I send the notice to everyone?
Officer, the neighbor, everybody that's had any involvement in this so far should receive one.
So everyone to send it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody involved.
Yeah,
everybody involved.
Okay, so this is my question. You answered that, but maybe you keep in mind my story for the future. Maybe you give me sometime in the future some other suggestions.
You can take it further than the courtesy notice, and given you're in a fairly extreme position, you might have to do that. But I would certainly put out courtesy notices to everybody that you've encountered in this. It's just ridiculous situation that you're in.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, but it's almost costing us a life, and we destroyed. We traumatized so much that you would not believe.
I can hear it.
No, I can believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for calling in and sharing your story. And it's these sort of stories we hope to see an end to, all of us. But thank you very much for calling in.
Okay. Look, can I just say one thing? On the back of the instructions for the courtesy notice, there is a diagram at the very back page. Okay, and it describes the courtesy notice process, and at the bottom of the page it describes the UCC filing process if you have to take it further. If you really want to apply pressure to these people to leave you alone, you may have to use the process that diagram at the bottom of the page describes, but go through the entire courtesy notice process first. Okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. That was horrible. I'm so sorry to hear that story.
Well, I'm just appalled to hear that's going on. It's just outrageous.
Okay, we've got area code 843. Area code 843.
Yes.
Yes, area code 843.
Hello.
What's your name?
Is Desiree. Yes.
Desiree.
Hello. How are you guys doing? Yes.
Good, thank you.
Good.
Yes. I wanted to know whether like places like One Main Financial and like Title Maxes are all those places foreclosed too?
Yes.
Okay.
Are they banks? Are you talking? They're banks, yes.
Like it's like a Title Max Corporation, and I think like One Main used to be like City Financial. It's like whenever I'm sending them the courtesy notices, it's like they're basically saying they'll do whatever it takes. Like they have to go to court. Like they'll do whatever it takes because we still have to pay them.
Send them an invoice.
I mean, but the thing with Title Max, like what if they come and get the vehicles?
Are you guys understanding that?
No.
Okay. Can you repeat the question?
Like with Title Max policies, like in their contract they say it's like if you don't pay the invoice, their ticket or whatever, that they'll come and they'll repossess the vehicle.
Okay. Remember earlier in the show we were talking about the actual contract that we're setting up. Okay, right back at the start of the show. You might need to go back and listen to that again, just in the first half hour of the show. We can't stop them from taking action. What we're offering them is our terms and conditions if they take an action. Okay, so if they come and try and remove your property, you'll see there are terms and conditions which you will base your invoice to them upon. And if you look at the actual fees involved, you might have a $50,000 car, but they're going to personally get an invoice for probably $150,000 if they come and take your vehicle away. And you need to point that out to them when you invoice them, that they are going to be personally invoiced.
Don't wait until they take your car. Even if they threaten to take your car.
Exactly.
If they either by phone call or by correspondence or letter, if they threaten you to take your car, then you send them an invoice.
Immediately. And make it. There are plenty of terms and conditions that you will find will apply. You generate very large invoices with the way that they're set up. That's the key to actually discourage them from taking that action, because it's the individuals that are liable.
Mhm.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Desiree?
Yes, that'll be all. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Desiree. Okay, we've only got 2 more to try and get through, guys. So let's do this.
I got to jump, guys. I just wanted to say goodbye to everybody. I love you guys until next time, which I guess is tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
See you then.
See you then. Cheers.
All right.
Thanks, Brian.
Cheers. Bye.
Okay, area code 320.
320, that's me.
That's
Can you hear me?
What was your name? Yes, I can.
My name is Chase.
Hey, Chase.
My question is, while I'm visualizing the CVAX coming into manifestation and these assets becoming available, I understand that it's my own innate value as a being, but I'm starting to visualize how that's going to translate into something the economy can actually trade and barter. So I don't know if you know these details or if it's too far ahead, but I'm thinking about preparing for a bank account or Bitcoin or another.
Yeah, we know details, but we don't know enough to put together a coherent picture as yet, without being sure that we're not misleading anybody in any way, because that's not what we want to do, obviously. We do know that, for example, all of the current structures, financial structures that are there available, have been looked at extensively. And what's been found is that they all have the ability, they all have a back door, so to speak, they all have the ability to be manipulated. So none of them are suitable, because none of them offer absolute transparency and kind of firewall against any form of manipulation or fraud.
Yeah, that they're not free from special interest, which is the people who like to sit in back rooms and manipulate situations because of those back doors and because the system around them is so corrupt.
The whole thing about whatever financial system we end up with, it needs to be incorruptible and it needs to be completely transparent. So we do know that is what's being worked on as we speak. But what the final result looks like, I can't tell you.
Yeah, well, one thing I can say is that some distance down the track, the technological shift we're going to go through is, and this sounds a touch weird, but it appears to be a fact that the exchange will actually be energetic, and it will actually be real, and that is us using our energy without representation. So there's no gold involved, there's no nominal digital currency involved, there's no nothing. Now that's down the track. In the interim, it will probably be, in part, some kind of digitally transferable token system, in conjunction with whatever currencies still remain at that point in time out in general usage. So for some time it certainly won't be cashless, and it won't be purely digital. And Whether we ultimately go to a pure digital one before we go to pure energy exchange, I can't say, but the control of the CVAC is entirely up to us, and it'll depend on how we feel at that point. And given we've got a big transformation to go through before you even get there, it's a little difficult to say which way we'll go.
Does that make any sense?
Did I make any sense at all with that stuff?
It does make sense. And it reminds me of Bitcoin. I've been looking into that a little bit. Have you heard of Bitcoin?
Yes,
we
I'm
have.
somewhat familiar with the digital currencies on the internet. And look, it may the initial way we move value around may well look a lot like something like Bitcoin, but it won't be. It will be something that will be absolutely custom built because of the security problems with the old systems.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Chase. Okay, guys, we've only
you.
got one more, so let's see if we can't... Oh, where's my mouse gone? Where has my mouse gone? Oh, there it is. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Chase. And our last caller would be Dale.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, guys. Listen, this is Dale Benedum, Dale After Dark on the
Hey, Dale.
chat. Listen, I'm real curious because I kind of, Lisa, you commented on the show I did about the new sandbox, and I think I may have gotten my wires crossed, and I kind of was picking up the tone that I may have said something out of turn about Lisa being a Rothschild, and I wanted to set the record straight because if you knew who I was, you know that I'm operating in spirit and in total love and light with creation.
I'll tell you exactly what I said if you didn't hear it. I did mention your show, and I said that in the first few minutes you said you'd listened to one of our shows and that Heather had said something about being a blood relation to the Rothschild. I said I'm not saying he's lying. I'm just saying he wasn't listening, because that's not what she said. And I did say that you were actually saying it in a good light, meaning that there are people who are connected with the Rothschild, there are people who are in the system who also want to change it.
Yeah.
And that you would.
That was my intent.
That was the message.
That was my intent.
That was the message. Yeah. Well, I backed you up there that was the message.
Well, yeah, and I just want to go on record saying I first and foremost, I love what you guys are doing. I support you 200%, each and every one of you. Bob, I really identify with you, brother. We are all co-creators. We're all doing our little aspects, whatever that may be. In my show, that show I did was taking what you guys have produced and putting it and showing it in another way of actually being our own co-creators and operating on, not on a 3D realm, but creating a whole new world or sandbox, so to speak, and letting them have theirs or kicking them out of this one and creating a new one in the kind of world that we want to live in. So, Heather, if you're listening, please understand, I was only giving reference of what I heard, what she said, and it doesn't mean, the name is a name that a lot of people are sensitive over because they know of the history behind it, but I don't label people with names. I label them on the content of their character and what I'm feeling, and I go off of heart feeling, and she is definitely putting herself out there, and I can only assume sometimes in harm's way, but she is definitely, I feel, connected to spirit in a very big way and being very protected. And I want to encourage every one of you that are doing what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, and everybody else that's supporting this and getting in line. We all are creating the world we want to live in, and I want to reiterate that. And I commend and I applaud all of you because, who knows, this very well may be the platform that's going to carry us into this next stage of human evolution. And, hey, man, you know what? The history books are being rewrote, and wouldn't it be kind of neat that you guys are in it?
We're all in it. We're all rewatching the history books. Brilliant.
You too, Dale. You too.
Yeah.
Good.
No, it's great.
Love
we're your support is fantastic. The information, there's so much information flying around, some confusion is inevitable, but we're just trying to keep everything as clean as we can. Because Heather's, if you ever get a chance to talk to Heather directly, she is completely transparent in everything she says and does. It's really quite a different experience to talking to her.
Well, I'd love to have her on the show and have you guys, if time permits. I do my shows on Blog Talk on Saturday nights, 8 Central, and I simulcast on Wolf Spirit Radio as well. Mm-hmm. And would love to have you guys have another platform if you'd like to put it together. So I'll just put that out there, and you can get through to me on Blog Talk Radio messaging.
Thank you so much, Dale. I'm glad you called in. I really am.
Oh, I am too. I just wanted to clear that up because I really felt bad. Like, oh my God, what did I do wrong? Oh, jeez. Yeah, I have a knack. Sometimes I think more than I can speak. I don't speak real well. I think faster than I speak, and sometimes the words don't get transmitted onto the radio, and I thought maybe that's what happened, and it did.
Okay.
So I wanted to clear that up. All right.
I'm glad. Thank you so much.
For giving me the opportunity to clear up.
Thank you.
No
and
problem.
guys, we've gone 35 minutes over. I'm surprised that Blog Talk's allowed us to have it, but they haven't cut us off yet. So thank you so much for everybody hanging around for 2.5 hours. It's a long time, but there's always lots to talk about and always lots of questions. So tune in tomorrow for the Collective Imagination. We, fingers crossed that Heather can join us. And if she does, I know that there's a lot to talk about. And if she doesn't, there's also a lot to talk about. So either way, tune in tomorrow. Thanks, Bob and Chris, for hanging around all this time. Thanks to everybody else who joined us. Questions, participating in the chat room. You're all awesome. And we will look into doing more shows. We will look into perhaps doing, and I'm not going to make any promises as yet because I need to talk to the people that I'm going to ask to do them. Maybe a show a week that's just dedicated to courtesy notices. Or maybe a show a week that's just dedicated to CVACs. These are the kind of ideas we can play with.
Indeed. Yep.
So, see what we can do. In the meantime, talk to you all tomorrow. Have a lovely evening, day, whatever's happening for you.
See you later, guys.
Good night.
Good night.